robots took my podcast, man.
In 1955, an extraordinary object landed on Earth.
Has the press gotten wind of this yet?
We don't think so, sir.
If this got out, it could change the course of civilization. Or briefly.
Well, they pulled the engine out.
Get rid of it.
In 1985, seniors at Kit Carson High
Hey, school tax, jellyfish. Come on.
were working on their science projects when Mike Harmon discovered the engine.
I wonder what this thing runs on. Unleaded.
He fixed it.
Unless your project is Dino Supreme, you both get D's.
Hey, I'll take it.
And he called it My Science Project. But he didn't turn it in. He turned it loose.
Hey, I've seen lights like this at an Ozzy Osbourne concert.
This is bigger than the planet.
Is this like when you told us we could smoke banana peels?
Great, there goes my D.
It's dangerous. You could wind up in another...
Wait a minute. Something tells me we ain't in Kansas no more, Toto. Sure, what's he saying? He's going to kick off.
What are we gonna do?
About 1 to 5 of good behavior. Hit the blow up. Whoa, now we are talking hyperspace.
My Science Project.
Now that was a ride.
This has been Busey Talk. All right, do you want to lead us in? We're recording.
Robots took my podcast. All right. Gary Busey. Okay, that was the worst Gary Busey. Welcome to our podcast. The Robots Took My Podcast. I am Jordan.
And I am Anthony.
Anthony, what movie are we talking about today?
This week, Jordan, we travel back in time to 1985.
Are we talking about Back to the Future?
No, I wish we were, but no, we're talking about another film from that same year, My Science Project.
A
teen movie about science in a year of science movies.
What was it about science movies, time travel in the year 1985? That's my biggest question. You know, I know this was released. I think this took advantage of Back to the Future's like quick success, and it was smart too. They released it right after Back to the Future, as far as I understand. But anyway, what was it about that year?
I think they were just a bunch of movies were hitting on a trend, and this happens a lot with body switch movies or just any genre you can think of.
True.
And
Water movies. Asteroid movies.
Back to the Future came out, obviously, one of the highest grossing films of the year. And then, clustered around the same time in August, Weird Science comes out.
That's right, by Sir John Hughes. Yes.
Real Genius comes out.
OMG. That's another reason that's another movie I was thinking about. Exactly. Was Real Genius came out a month before already. And that was about kids in college being commissioned to build a Star Wars laser super weapon. You know, they called it the Star Wars weapon back in the 80s, according to history.
Yeah. Explorers comes out. That's another. That's more of a little kid movie. But on TV we had Misfits of Science.
That's
which
right.
Was also with young Courtney Cox,
starring a baby Courtney Cox. Yeah. It just, what was it about that year? And it just must have. It's a weird trend. It's always weird when movies trend like this, or trends happen in movies like this. You know.
Yeah. And this was that year. 1985 was the year of science movies. And this film came at the very end after all of that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
End of summer. So
I wanted to bring up the fact that it was made by Touchstone Pictures, which I noticed.
And tell us about Touchstone.
It was an arm of Disney, and it was there to it was Disney's way to make either an R-rated movie or a PG-13 movie. And this is probably one of their first PG-13 movies, I imagine, because this is a year after that rating came around. but it was Disney's. But that way, it didn't have the Disney logo per se. That was the deal with Touchstone, and then they could get away with more cursing and more.
Yeah, they could
whatever.
use swears and adult themes, and
Yeah,
a movie geared toward teenagers, which is this film. And so this movie is written and directed by Jonathan. I don't know how to say his last name, but Buttel.
that might be right. Yeah.
Who wrote
is that the proper pronunciation? I don't know.
It is not. I guarantee that. Who also wrote The Last Starfighter, which was a moderate success.
Oh, was he a co-writer? Because I know it was Nick Castle.
Yeah.
So
Nick Castle directed. Yeah, I'm sure. But anyway, he was credited as writing that. He is credited as writing this and directing this.
Interesting. That is interesting, though. These are two kind of fairy tale like movies in a way.
Yeah, and very iconic '80s movies. And then he also directed his opus was Theodore Rex with Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg Power in dinosaur detective movie Power there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. This movie and Theodore Rex. And this film stars John Stockwell as Michael Harlan.
Yeah. Cougar from Top Gun, who we would later see as Cougar in Top Gun. You know, I almost softened my family today, sir. That guy.
And also, he was in Christine a couple years before this, a Stephen King car movie.
Yeah.
And Jordan, this same year, he was also in the terrible film Radioactive Dreams. Came out in 1985. And
what is it with you and this movie, Radioactive Dreams? Your obsession, your unhealthy obsession with this movie.
I hate that movie. I hate it. It goes right in the pile next to Angel, Angel, Down We Go is movies you should never, ever watch. You can't unwatch it.
But we're talking about it. Why? Why, Anthony? Why? I don't mean to go into William Shatner. Why?
It also stars Danielle von Zernick as Ellie.
Yes.
Who played
the lovely
Donna.
Danielle von Zernick. Yes.
Yes. And La Bamba.
That's right. That's right.
Richie Valens' girlfriend.
I forgot. What a great actress.
Several great character actors. Fisher Stevens.
Yeah, I like Fisher Stevens, even though, warning ahead of time, he says a word that people might be offended by nowadays. And I understand why. It's the FAG word. And he says it a few times.
It is the 80s, but that's not nearly as bad as his cringy portrayal of an Indian person in the Short Circuit movie series a couple years later.
I wasn't going to bring that up. Wow, you brought that up.
I brought it up.
Ooh.
I went there.
Ooh,
Skeletons in his closet. But
I feel bad for him, kind of. He says he feels bad about that. He still has nightmares about that, from what I understand. Yeah. No joke.
We should feel bad about this movie instead. No, I'm kidding. Character shots fired already. Character actor, stalwart TV character actor. I think he's in HBO's Succession now. And Richard Masur is also in
Richard Masur, who doesn't he run the Actors Guild now? I think. No joke.
Or he did. Yeah, he did for a couple years.
For a moment there, yeah.
Another character actor who shows up in everything.
Which I love Richard Masur. I always thought he was great. I even right down to even as the dad in License to Drive, or he just I thought he was actually really, or the other like guy in Heartburn, even the movie Heartburn, the Michael Nichols movie with Jack Nicholson. I hate to say the other guy. Geez, but anyway, Sir Richard Masur, I should say.
Yeah, but is he great in this movie? We will find out. So, Jordan, how does this movie begin?
How does this begin? I mostly remember, yes.
It's been a couple days since we watched this. It's 1957, and the UFO is caught on radar going down. It crashes in the Arizona desert.
Yes.
And then we have all these Air Force-y scenes where you have Air Force people. They say there's found two creatures, and they pulled this engine out. And then in this hangar, we see this UFO, and these military men pull who we find out is President Eisenhower, off the golf course. He's still in his golfing gear.
Oh, that's right. God, you reminded. I forgot all this opening until you brought it up. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Fantastic thing called notes, Jordan. It's
I have notes in front of me, but
it's my little secret. Just don't tell anybody. And so he says, well, the Army guy says, we can't keep this on ice forever. Get rid of it. Or the president says, get rid of it. we can't keep this on ice forever. And so just like bury this. And okay, that's the premise of the movie. Really, Jordan? Are they just going to take a UFO and bury it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Why would you
get,
bury a UFO? That is weird. I mean, like you're gonna bury a dead body or a car with a
you
dead
know,
body, like the
yeah.
mafia. I
Air
don't know.
Force is very much like the mafia. They're burying dead bodies, dead alien bodies in the desert. You know, they know too much.
It's
And
gonna be buried in Pueblo, Colorado, somewhere. I don't know. Yeah,
so no curiosity
somewhere in
here,
Nevada.
no thought of using this for defense or anything. So, and then they
It's
shoot
an
it
odd
with,
choice. Yes, it is an odd choice. I agree.
but it is a movie,
It's
and they shoot it with a laser. They have a laser.
in the 1950s. Yeah, a laser.
They have a laser. It's crazy, and that's the most shocking thing to me. But anyways, that's the intro. Aliens are involved. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then we cut to what looks like a college class, but it's really high school. This is one of those movies like Less Than Zero, when we were talking about it, where you can't figure
Yeah.
out, are these 30-year-olds in high school or are they in college? I cannot tell.
Was it me? I swear that it looks like the Whittier High School in Whittier, California. They used in Back to the Future also, or is it just me? I had a hard time looking this up. I don't know why or verifying this, but to me it looks just like the same high school they used in Back to the Future, the Whittier, California High School.
It could
Anyway.
be. I don't know.
But I found that, and if that's so, that's another weird connection to Back to the Future.
Yeah, but there's stadium high school seating in this high school, and the teacher is teaching his class and talking about how a science project is coming up and it's due pretty soon. And who is the teacher in this movie? Mr. Roberts.
Dennis Hopper, man.
the great Dennis Hopper. Inspired casting.
Sir Dennis Hopper, yes. Who we know from, I don't know. I don't know how many young people may know Dennis Hopper at this point. Do young people know Easy Rider from 1969?
I mean,
starring Dennis Hopper, Jack Nicholson, and Peter Fonda? Or,
Easy Rider. You've got the Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, he was in about
the
50
last
movies.
movie. I mean, list goes on with Dennis.
The
Hopper.
villain in Waterworld. He was the smoker main villain in the Waterworld. They called them the smokers in Waterworld. That movie.
I mean,
But
just needs no introduction. But he is in this movie.
Super Mario, exactly. I mean, once again, which also would have another actor of this movie in there. I didn't even think about it. Fisher Stevens, right?
Fisher Stevens. Look at that. All roads run back to Fisher Stevens for sure.
And Dennis Hopper, I guess. 6 degrees to Dennis Hopper and Fisher Stevens.
Yeah, a less fun game is 6 Degrees of Fisher Stevens. Was he in an episode of?
And I love Fisher Stevens' character in this movie. He's like something out of a 50s movie, but he's a little bit. He's obviously very overly aggressive, and
Yeah.
But he's like that gum smacking guy in a 50s movie, the smart ass. Yeah.
And he
the guy that asked Robbie the Robot to make him a bunch of wine, Yeah.
Forbidden Planet. Yeah, he's Brooklyn Bob in every military movie. Yeah, he's from Brooklyn. He dresses like it. He's a jabroni. And he's like the sidekick best friend. I call him Not Styles from Teen
Wait a
Wolf.
minute. Is he doing an Italian stereotype in this movie? Oh my God. Fisher Stevens. Oh my God.
That really burns my cannoli. Yeah, he plays Vince Latello. The most Italian Brooklyn stereotype. Wacky comedy relief sidekick like Robert Downey Jr. used to do.
Sorry, we may cut
movies.
this. I don't know. The stereotype part, I don't know. But
No,
you did mention the stereotype he plays in Short Circuit, so.
I think we're going to be all right. I think we're going to make it through this, Jordan. We're going to be okay.
Fisher Stevens is somewhere hemorrhaging right now. Am I even saying hemorrhaging right?
Well, Jordan, okay, how annoying is Fisher Stevens? Vinny always has something smart ass to say. How annoying is he on a scale of 1 to 5 for 80 sidekicks for you?
Well, compared to like Willie and Temple of Doom, or
Styles,
or Styles and Teen Wolf, or Anderson in Land of Doom. Yeah, that's reaching, I know. for some people, even
Robert
including
Downey
us.
Jr. In every movie.
In Less Than Zero, or Robert Downey Jr. in Firstborn, or Robert Downey Jr.
Back to School.
in Back to
Yeah.
School. Poor Robert. Wow, he had that side career before. He had that career before as the sidekick in the '80s movie, or Weird Science once
And
again.
Weird
Jesus
Science is
Christ,
sort of
man!
The bully sidekick, which is a different. Yeah. So I mean, how annoying
Or
is
Molly
Fisher
Ringwald in
Stevens?
Space Hunter.
How annoying
Fisher
is he?
Stevens. On a scale of, I give him a half a Willie, a half a Molly Ringwald in Space Hunter. Damn it, this is a hard rating now. How am I supposed to rate him?
For me, he's quite annoying this whole movie, but he's got some good lines. I don't know. You either like his character or you don't, but he needs to be in this movie.
He did kind of make me laugh every now and then, even though, yeah, his language is not politically correct nowadays.
It's
of course,
He's
you
from
can't say that
Brooklyn,
kind of thing. It's
Jordan. Come on,
offensive.
that's how we talk in
Yeah.
Brooklyn. Come on, Jordan. You know.
And he seems a little aggressive as a character, but of course you're like, oh my god, he's just
Yeah. So, anyways,
he's ready for a fight. He's ready to pick a fight, yo. I don't know.
Dennis Hopper's Mr. Roberts, the teacher, is this old, washed-up hippie dude. You know, who's just not about the man. And
this is Dennis Hopper post acid trip that went on for a few years.
yeah, he just out of
He was
rehab
on one
here.
he was on one big long acid trip before this, literally, and then went to rehab, and then went to the hospital, and they had to shoot him up with something. I think this was post all that anyway, because in the early '80s he had a kind of meltdown in the early '80s where he at one point even said in an interview he took too much acid and he thought it was World War III, and he wandered into a jungle of some kind, and then wandered in naked, and suddenly ended up in a hospital or something, and then he was on some long trip in the hospital, and then he woke up days later after a doctor shot him up with something to sober him up from the acid trip.
Wow.
I'm just saying, yeah, I don't know.
And this is his sobriety movie, I think.
This is like close to it, I think like Blue Velvet a year later, would be even more. He'd be on the road to recovery even more with his career and his sobriety.
To career recovery.
Because he was into serious. It wasn't just that; it was cocaine. He was into serious drugs,
And so he plays this hippie teacher who's like, "I'm not trying to lay some like rules on you, man." Like he's trying to be cool, right?
Man, is he a cool teacher? I have to say.
Yeah. And so we have our hero is Michael Harlan.
Played by John Stockwell.
And so he's just sort of this gearhead, what they call him in the movie, this wrench, grease monkey kind of kid who likes working on cars. And he doesn't give a damn about high school. He just wants to work in, as a mechanic.
I like
after
cars.
high school.
I trust cars, yeah.
And
he likes cars. He trusts cars, That's what he says.
Yeah. And so, I mean, Dennis Hopper's like, look, if you, or Mr. Roberts is like, look, if you don't get an A on this science project, you fail. You and your Brooklyn buddy fail. So
you fail, man. You fail, man. Okay.
I'm trying to give you chances here, man.
You fail, man.
So he's going around the class and he's asking everybody about their science project. And Ellie Sherman, who is the 80s nerd girl in class, is doing some project on the effects of fungus. And this,
I'm in love with her, by the way. She's my girlfriend.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's continue.
She would be cute. She would be so cute today. But in the 80s, there was just like, she's a nerd. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah. If you met a girl like that in high school, oh my god. That'd be like, come on. I mean, what is wrong with this guy?
Yeah, and so
does he not like this girl?
We'll get to that in a minute. But then there's another kid, Sherman, who is the 80s movie nerd, played by Raphael Sbarge.
Yeah, he later had a TV show briefly on CBS called Better Days that only lasted half a season, but he was in another 80s movie, I believe, called Space Camp, wasn't he?
He might have been.
1986. Anyway, where he played like a more cooler guy even. That's the odd thing. They took off the glasses.
Yeah, a more cooler guy. In a more cooler movie.
That's what they did in the 80s. They just took off the glasses and you weren't a nerd anymore in the 80s. That was it. It was a Clark Kent fucking thing.
It was amazing. And so he's doing like some project on the Gregorian calendar. So everyone in this class is smarter than Mike Harlan, who's a dummy.
Yeah.
As we find out in this movie.
And he's also a nerd stereotype, by the way, of course, people.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the way they portrayed nerds in the 80s and 70s, mostly. They weren't portrayed as like later on the Big Bang Theory where they would grow up and get the girl really quickly. Yeah. No, that we didn't have Big Bang Theory type nerd heroes in the 80s. I'm sorry.
No nerd heroes.
They looked like just the biggest friggin' nerds that would never have a life outside of, oh, I love this. All right, this is all I know. Oh.
Science.
Anyway.
And so so Mr. Roberts is like, no project, no diploma, baby. And he's trying to be cool. And he's talking about the 60s. But hold on a second, man. So
hey, man. Wait. Stop, man. What are you talking about, man?
The 60s was 15 years before this movie, right? And
Holy
so
fuck.
Dennis Hopper is like 50, but that would make him like a 35 or something. So that's a hard 35. It's been a hard 15 years for Mr. Roberts. You know what I mean?
Well, wait, but Dennis Hopper was born in like I think he was born in the late 30s though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In the 60s, he was like pushing 30, I think. You know what I mean? Anyway, he was a grown ass actor, you know? Anyway.
Oh, that's right. He was. Yeah, he wasn't really like under 25 guy back during all this, you know.
But anyways, it's a movie. And then he takes a hit of nitrous, and that is believable because you know Dennis Hopper has hit a fucking tank of nitrous oxide, man. You know?
Yeah, that I'm like, damn, he's doing a whip it right there in the classroom.
Man.
You know.
And so it's a real reaction. Anyway, so
yeah, I think he really did that for real. I didn't look this up or anything, but I think he did it for real.
I don't know. So outside of high school, we meet Michael's bimbo girlfriend, and I only say that I use the term because it's used in the movie. Jordan, settle down. And his girlfriend is breaking up with him, says you're spending too much time with your car. You know, Christine flashbacks.
You're spending too much time with that car. Okay.
And Fisher Stevens even mentions Christine at one point in the movie. It's kind of funny.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. There's like a reference to it. Like, and that's another movie John Stockwell was in. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we find out that Ellie has this crush on Michael, and she concocts this ruse, Jordan, because she works for the yearbook. And she found out, because all high school is talking about in 10 seconds about how Michael's girlfriend is breaking up with him and going out with some other dude, and they're making out in a car like 5 minutes later, right? And so she wants to interview him for the yearbook. So she's like trying to ask like all his deets, you know, everything about him, and then ask him like
she asks him in the question I love. Oh, you're getting to it. There you go.
Go for it.
How many times have you seen Jedi? That's the way she asks him. Even she doesn't say him Return of the Jedi. How many times have you seen Jedi? I mean, oh my God, if I met this girl in high school, I would have fallen in love instantly from that question. Sorry.
But you weren't like a beefy like gearhead, Jordan.
I was friends with one, and he also had a car. So
yeah, anybody who had a car at all in my high school was cool. I don't know. Anyway,
and some of the girls loved him. Yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, this dude is so basic. He's like, I've never seen Jedi, and just shoots down all her questions.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you like? He's like, cars. Duh.
Exactly. And you're like, you're the protagonist of this movie. I don't like you now. You know what? If you're the hero of this movie, we can't connect here. We have to, no, I'm just joking. Anyway.
He's so dumb. He's so dumb. It's like,
I like cars. I really like the cars.
And he's like he's talking to Not Styles there. And he's saying like, he reminds me of Mark from The Room. He's like, you know, sometimes girls are so smart and like, sometimes they're so dumb. And it's just like, why can't girls be more like cars? Like, yeah. I mean, like, you turn them on and drive them around when you want to. Like, this guy is clueless, you know? You just
Poor John Stockwell having to play this guy. I don't know, unless it was. I mean, then he is a high school kid, I guess. He's supposed to be 17,
30-year-old, and dating advice to people in movies. Mike, The problem is with you, man. You have to learn to love someone more than your car to be happy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
People are not things that you can tweak and work on. You have to accept people the way they are, and you have to give them something as well. It's people aren't machines.
But if we could give dating advice to this girl, I mean, I'm sorry. Mike is maybe not your man. I don't know. Maybe he's not the one.
He hasn't seen Jedi. He's just not into you, girl. That's not your type.
You can't be with a guy who hasn't seen Jedi as many times as you, or more so. No, it just doesn't work that way. I'm sorry.
And you've got Sherman over here who's all in love with her. You got this nerd guy who gets you and is all up your butt.
Is clearly in love with her from the get-go, and they don't really touch on that, but there's clearly, he's clearly got a crush on her. He knows what's up with her.
But he's a dick. So, I mean,
yeah,
he
is too.
She's going after toxic men, and I don't know.
He's not as cool looking as Mike Carlin either. Mike Carlin is the gearhead. He does look kind of cool with his auto stuff,
And he doesn't care about anything, which makes him even sexier to a high school girl.
Of
and he
course.
doesn't like her at all, which makes him even sexier than that to a high school girl.
That's believable, actually. Yes,
that's the most believable part
from my high school days and yours, I'm sure. No, or I don't know, maybe just me.
So Mike has a car, and this becomes important in the movie. It's a 1968 GTO.
Boy, right? It's a sweet car.
It's a beautiful car.
Oh, and God, what a car!
What movie featured? And we've talked about this a little bit. I think. What movie featured a 1970 GTO, Jordan?
Oh man,
it's a Warren Oates movie.
Was it Race with the Devil?
It was not Race with the Devil. That was in 1974 Winnebago.
No, was it Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia?
It was not. That was some sort of Oldsmobile or something.
Two-Lane
Blacktop. We haven't talked about this. We might talk about that movie.
But that's right. We were going to talk about this
GTO
movie
is
again
a cool-ass car, especially from that era. So
I'm sorry.
Props.
You're probably questioning our friendship now. My bad.
Anyway, not important. So it turns out that Ellie's car is broken. And yet, it's another ruse. Mike goes over there to fix it, and then he figures out very quickly that she just popped the distributor cap off. And then she confesses that she just likes him, which is cool.
The girl's clever. She's a clever stalker.
She knows how to... Yeah, exactly,
And she's subtle about it. She's very subtle.
She knows how to do that, so she's got some sort of mechanical savviness. Of course, she's an 80s nerd, so she knows everything, right?
Yeah, with my experience in stalking, it doesn't... Oh, sorry. No, anyway, let's continue.
I popped a lot of distributor caps off of girls' cars, Jordan.
Yes. But, when you undo their transmission, that really messes up the deal. Anyway.
And so, she's like trying to go out with him, and then he sees his girlfriend, his ex, making out with some douche, who we see later, kind of. And... so he's like, I guess he concocts some scheme to make her jealous. I don't really get his motivation, but he's like, yeah, let's go on a date. Yeah, let's do this.
I don't understand, why he invites her along for the ride kind of thing. Unless I forgot what it was. What was the motivation exactly?
Yeah. He's like, you don't read Cosmo, do you? Because his girlfriend was just like totally into Cosmo and whatever, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
80s men did not like women reading articles in Cosmo, apparently. So
Cosmo sometimes had weird articles, though. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
How to dump your gearhead boyfriend.
There would be jokes about it from comedians back then. Dennis Miller had a bit about, how to have an orgasm while hanging a clock,
Yeah. And so she's like, Ellie drops a lot of one-liners in this movie too. So between her and Fisher Stevens, I can't tell who the comic relief is because everyone's always dropping jokes. It's
true.
It's about 50% of them land. She's cute, but some of the lines are groaners. But anyway,
I think Fisher Stevens gets the best one-liners though. At the same time, that's the funny thing, right? I mean, his character gets a lot of the best one-liners.
Yeah, but you kind of want to slap him at the same time. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
he's okay. He's
a little bit much. He's a bit much, I guess, because he's just a little bit overly aggressive. His character, I guess.
Yeah, and you tone it down there, Fisher Stevens. And so at home, Michael's dad owns this hardware store, and he's entertaining Company, which is this lady he met. And
yes. And did I not notice that? Yeah, okay. This is weird kind of every time, though, at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Because he's always entertaining this woman played by Ann Wedgeworth, who who was just always this character back then in everything
Yeah.
that I've ever watched from that era, right down to an episode of Who's the Boss, where she was like the Bull Durham, Susan Sarandon type to Tony Danza's character when they were trying to copy Bull Durham there.
Yeah.
In that episode of Who's the Boss. Or, yeah, anyway. But
She
now
always
every time
plays a loose woman, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, was it me? Did you not notice this, though? Every time in those scenes, the time machine is on the background. The 1960 George Pal time machine starring Rod Taylor is always in the background every time he walks in the living room and the TV's on.
Good eye. I did not notice that. Whoa.
That I got a thrill out of and a kick out of
Yeah.
it. Being a fan of the Time Machine 1960 myself, honestly, that's a movie dear to my heart. Anyway, but yeah, I thought that was a neat little kind of like little plug because this is a movie about time travel anyway.
Little homage there, and
a little homage and a little like just like in part of the Matrix, you see the prisoner with Patrick. What's his face in the background? The TV
British
show from the
actor,
60s,
60s British show,
and it's kind of like a little like thing they put in there for you to notice as it's almost like an Easter egg kind of thing they put in movies like this. And this is like an 80s version of having an Easter egg in there, honestly. Having a time machine on the TV in the background. It's like a little Easter egg in the movies before DVDs and all that, before he had all that shit.
Cool.
Anyway.
And the dad is played by Barry Corbin, right?
Yes, a Texan Barry Corbin.
actor,
Texan actor, been in everything down to the TV show Northern Exposure, down to some actual big parts in bigger movies.
Another great character actor, and well, your boy John Stockwell is
he was
also from
he was in
Galveston.
No Country for Old Men. Yeah, that's true. This is a couple of Texan actors here.
Yeah,
John Stockwell is from Dallas, and then
he's from Galveston.
Or Galveston,
anyway,
you said.
I just know you love those Texas actors, Jordan. So Jordan would have a podcast on Texas actors if he could.
We're talking about Texas actors on this podcast, and let me just start with, Tommy Lee Jones as a guest. No. Hi, Jordan, how you doing? I'm Tommy Lee Jones. I'm not happy to be here. What time am I leaving? No.
And Gary Busey. Hi.
Oh, and yeah, Gary Busey is a
Two
guest.
subs.
I don't
Two
like
subs.
Gary Busey. Why am I on the same show with him? Shut up, Tommy Lee. Anyway.
It's the same accent. Anyway, so he takes Michael's idea of a date is to take Ellie to a military disposal site, right, for planes and stuff.
Yeah, because we've all done that, right? I mean,
breaking and entering on federal property. That on first date.
Yeah, and that nearby military base, which we all have in every town we all live in, right?
Yeah, well, they're in Arizona, somewhere in a small town, so it's believable.
I mean, I live in Colorado near one. I mean, I guess it's normal.
And you take your dates out there, right? You and your wife on date night go poke
Oh
around
yeah, we go
military
watch
bases.
missiles go off.
Yeah.
We wait for that vibration too. It's so sexy.
Too much information. That's getting cut. Anyway, so he falls into this underground bunker space.
Yeah.
And Ellie's just cracking uncomfortable jokes the whole time.
Yeah.
And so there's a ticking time bomb, which I like. This tension with the guard. The guard hears something and then he's coming out there. So I kind of like that. There's the stakes
That's true.
there. And there's lots of old military junk in this space. Like, what else would there be? And I guess he doesn't really set it up, but I guess he's looking for something for a science project. Like, you can't just bring some junk into class and say, here's the science project,
That is that was a weird. Yeah, I agree. That was kind of a weak part of
Yeah.
He's just like looking for something that looks interesting that can pose, I guess, as his science project, right?
Yeah. And then we get an 80s discovery scene where he's poking around and it feels like a low-rent version of the Raiders warehouse. And
Also, too, I keep waiting for Berlin to show up and sing "Take My Breath Away" in this junkyard because you just see all these old planes in the background, and I'm like, is this the same junkyard from the Berlin video? But
or the
anyway.
same one from Harley Davidson, the Marlboro Man. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
That's in Arizona. Could be.
That's
Don't know.
true. I didn't even think about that. I forgot that there's a whole what was it with the what was it? Was this another big location where they got a anyway?
Production value. We've got, an old plane junkyard. It's production
True.
value.
I mean, I can see the production value. True. Don't get me wrong. I'm not.
Makes the movie look bigger,
Absolutely, it is definitely production value. It's just anyway.
Yeah. So he finds this box with a transmission in it with a Van de Graaff generator in the middle. Basically, this device with this this
it looks like a
staticky
Tesla
ball in it. Yeah, a little Tesla looking thing. What does this
I
thing
love
look
this
like
prop actually.
Yeah.
It does look like it looks like it was built around a Tesla kind of ball kind of thing or a Vanderleft. Absolutely, but I love the way this prop looks. Actually,
it's really cool.
I will say,
yeah,
it does look neat. It looks believable, kind of, and that was new technology around the '80s, so you didn't really think about it back then. Now we look at it because we've seen it in every Spencer's gift shop now, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and hell, I even have one in my living room with Buddha holding it up, over its head. The same, and you can touch it, and you can feel the electricity against your fingers. Yeah, but yeah,
that sounds like your science project right there, Jordan. So,
but I love this prop. And this production design is by David Snyder, one of my favorite. He's got Blade Runner credentials because he worked under Lawrence Paul from Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. Me being a big fan of production design and all that. Yeah, David Snyder power in this movie. I will say that for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the gizmo, as he calls it, sucks the power out of his flashlight. And of course, he doesn't realize that. Like, the people don't see this thing sucking power out of things as it starts to do. And then the guard finds him, and then they run. And luckily, Ellie she drops some more jokes. And then they leave the junkyard. They escape. And then they hop in the car. They drive a little ways. And then the car breaks down. And then we get some really good 80s impotence humor because he's embarrassed about his car breaking down.
Ouch.
This never happens to me, I swear.
Why did that car always break down in the 80s movies? God damn. Every fucking movie, there's anyway.
Yeah. And he's too embarrassed to walk into town because, Gearhead Mike doesn't want to be seen walking into town because his car broke down. Like, this is the pettiest high school ever.
Yeah.
He breaks up with his girlfriend in all of high school, or his girlfriend breaks up with him, and all of high school is talking about it. And then I guess it's a small town, but all the school was going to talk about how he had to walk back into town. Who gives a damn,
Yeah. Yeah, true. I mean, well, I don't know. Then again, I was in a small town junior high and high school when I was a kid, so I mean, word does travel fast about things. I know from experience on that. Right from, sometimes high school, junior high stuff, trends can go right to high school in a small town from my experience.
Yeah.
No joke. I don't mean to go there. I'm sorry. That was a little too deep, maybe.
Yeah. No, you're good. So then he calls Vince.
Therapy is being sought for me right now.
Anyway. And this is, that's the purpose of this podcast, not to talk about movies, but to work through our issues. Through movies.
Yes, through movies, exactly.
Therapy through movies.
Exactly. Work through our demons. Hang on, let me have another drink of this beer here. Okay.
And so anyways, he calls Vince, who's just treating his punk rock girlfriend like crap because he's an asshole. And
she's beautiful.
Yeah. So they drop Ellie off at her Adobe home. They drop Ellie off at her Adobe home, and then they have this little moment, Michael and Ellie, and she's like, thanks, blah, blah, blah. And so the Peter Bernstein score in this movie, who's not he just has a bunch of TV credits.
I thought it was good, though. I mean, I like the sci-fi elements of the score. That was really awesome.
It's pretty good. It's a little old-fashioned, especially when you get sweeping sort of orchestral.
Yeah.
It seems a little dated in scenes like this, but it's good for the movie.
But I think this movie is trying to go back to a 50s feel. I think that's that's its modus operandi, I think,
Like Back to the Future and like every other 80s movie was in love with the 50s.
No, more. I think it's going for more like a 50s sci-fi movie feel, like a movie like It Came from Outer Space kind of feel, or you know what I mean? Because it's a small town. Yeah, exactly. There was something like that in the 80s where they were going back to, I mean, Aliens is slightly a remake of Them. Ooh, I said that. Ooh. But yeah, I mean, my dad pointed that out to me when I was a kid, even that there was parts of Them that, he said, look at this. This is just like Aliens right here. right down to the traumatized little girl, the way she reacts,
Mhm.
right down to the way they go after the ants, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But in this
Beyond the
movie,
Starship Troopers accusations. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going off rails here.
so Crystal's new BF sees that Mike broke down. And he's going to spread the rumor that Mike broke down because this is a very petty high school.
Yeah.
And then, the nerd guy, and this is like he's stalking Ellie. He has this dish, a, a radar dish on his head. I don't know. It's funny, but it's weird. And he's got these bullies around him, these asshole douche guys. And so
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, Ellie's seeing Mike now. Oh, and so he wants to get these guys to beat up Michael, I think, or something. I don't
And
know.
oddly, I think these guys have been in like 2 other movies back then playing bullies in that time period. That's
Yeah.
the weird thing. I mean, this movie, the actors in this movie are just, it's got acting power all over the place. Don't get me wrong. The acting is great in this movie, but these actors were in like everything back then.
Yeah.
I mean, but I swear that's the same bully from this other 1986 movie called Modern Girls. Basically, is
could
one of those
be.
bullies. And it's always a tough guy from like, and he looks like this. And it's like maybe, and he was, I think, the same guy that was Jake's friend in 16 Candles.
Yeah. We need an 80s bully. His resume is just like, I played 80s bullies in 5 movies.
Yeah, the guy that says, the way she looks at me sometimes. Well, maybe she's, you know what? I can't say the word, but yeah.
Yeah.
The R word, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they take the device back to the garage, and then they're just he's cleaning it, and he accidentally turns it on. Then there's some weird transition choices in this movie, some weird wipes, but not important. And then the thing shocks his jukebox, and then they're like, well, let's plug it in. And so they find some terminals, and they just plug it into the wall. And then what happens, Jordan?
It just absorbs power all over the place, if I remember correctly. And then it takes, you see all that power, it uses all the power from nearby, from the power lines. And then and then they realize they have to, yeah.
Well, hold on. So it's this mist, it generates this electric mist, and it starts these, animation effects mist. It starts swirling around, and then there's lightning, and then this old Greek vase, like this ancient Greek vase materializes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Materializes, which is interesting because, yeah, that becomes like the first part of the thing, which is very nice explanatory.
Yeah.
And it's from another time period, but it was zapped there from another time period. But it shows you that there's this portal going on with this device. And it's a good way to explain it, I think. And just because it's different from any other time travel device in this movie. It's an alien more device. It's not built in somebody's garage or backyard or lab.
Yeah.
And it's not in a Manhattan project.
It's a unique MacGuffin.
Exactly. It is definitely. Because it's alien, they can play around with the rules a little more with it, but that's the interesting thing that makes you believe in it too. Is they go bam, there's this thing from the past that just materialized here,
yeah,
and I did think that was fascinating, actually, all that,
And so the garage, this is the garage, the auto shop in school or whatever, and my school.
That's right. That's after he's cleaned the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he plugs it in, this thing happens, and they unplug it, and then they go outside like, we're late for class. And then so then we see this wicked metal looking futuristic, like metal music looking, like something off a metal album.
Yeah. It looks
stuck
cool
in the wall.
I mean, my inner metalhead and redneck were just like, oh man, that's cool, man. Shit.
And so then what I really like is they go outside and school's over and they find out, Jordan, what has happened.
Wait, I forgot exactly. Is this when wait?
Well, I remembered exactly because what happens is they find out it's 2 hours in the future.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. God,
it's
dang.
A little thing. No, but
Yeah.
I like that because it's like it seemed like seconds to them, but they're suddenly 2 hours in the future, and then they finally put it together because they're both idiots. And then they go to the library looking for a book.
After they're running in everybody at school and they're like, why is class already out or whatever? And that was kind of trippy right there. I forgot about that. I'm sorry.
I like that. And that adds to the believability. There's some smart things in this movie, Jordan.
True. You need all that stuff to make anything in a fantasy or science fiction movie believable, essentially.
So they see Spencer, who works in the library. That's the nerd guy. And then they're like, we're looking for a book about, I don't know, something or other in time. Like two guys like go forward in time. He's like, oh, you're talking about a time warp. And then so he spouts a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of science-y nonsense about time warps and Einstein and parallel dimensions that don't really make any sense, but it makes sense in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Then they figure out that they have something that warps time. And these idiots, Jordan, their idea is to either sell it to like a TV program.
Yeah.
That's Vinny's idea. And then Mike is like, oh, I just want to turn it in, and this is definitely going to get me an A. Idiots. You have a device that creates time warps. Like, what the? I mean, even the dumbest high school kid could think of a better use for that. Goodness.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, if that had been me, I probably would have hidden it in my bedroom. I mean, I would have I would have opened the portal right there in my bedroom. Probably. Oh, here's a new plot for a movie. Shit, I need to write this down.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Their priorities are just not where they should be, man. You know what I mean? Damn, dude. Anyway, not important. So they take it to Professor Roberts, or try to, and he's like, see you later, guys. No, I'm going to an anti-war reunion meeting, which I thought was hilarious. What the hell is an anti-war reunion meeting, man? Anyway.
That Dennis Hopper with another great zinger, and this was Dennis Hopper selling on his image at the time. But I mean, it was smart though, in my opinion, at the same time. It was a good way for him to kind of come back into a part.
He's like parodying that. Yeah, it's really funny. Well, I mean, he did do that. What was that movie where he played the hippie that he and they were in
he did
bunker?
Flashback years later. Maybe it was because of this movie, where they saw him, because he was kind of repeating Easy Rider in that movie again. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or using his image on that whole thing. Yeah.
And so I just want to point out that there were payphones at this public school, and that was weird to me. I was like, oh man, payphones at a public school. Weird.
Anyway. We had one at my junior high, actually. We had a public phone at my junior high when I was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, because you had to call your parent from a dance,
Oh. Well, I went to an urban high school. It was like a prison, so no.
They didn't give you a free phone?
They wouldn't even let you bring your own phones in. It was bad. Anyway, so...
Can I get a phone call? No.
So Michael and Vince get Ellie, and they break into the school to get the device after hours. And those douche kids follow Michael there. And so, because Mr. Roberts is like, I'm going to this anti-war meeting, but I'll be grading papers in school at 9 o'clock. Like, how did he expect them to get into the school without breaking in? I don't know. Anyway, so they had to break in, I guess, to talk to him because he's grading. I don't know. Anyway, so they show the gizmo to Mr. Roberts, and he is intrigued. And he does a metal test, can't determine what the metal is. He's like, hey, man, this is generating power and light without heat, man. Do you know what you have here? And he's...
Yeah, man.
He realizes... I just love Dennis Hopper in this movie. I've said that 100 times, but... he realizes it's alien technology because he's the only person in this movie that's not an idiot, Jordan. We're one of the few people. And he realizes it's an engine that allows you to travel through time and space. And he plugs it in, like all the mist starts coming up, all the electricity, and he just like is almost possessed by it.
Yeah, yeah. And it looks like a time for him to chew up the scenery for a bit. So,
Oh, yeah.
It was good. It was good for him, But I was always a fan of Dennis Hopper, But yeah, no, I was always a fan of Dennis Hopper as an actor, man. I mean, just because he was always so far out there with everything.
He really sells it. He goes all the way. And he just starts tripping out like he's tripping out on this mist. And then he gets sucked into the device.
Yeah.
Then... they need to they're like, oh man, we got to stop this thing. Their teacher's been sucked in. So they're like, why don't we just, why don't they just unplug it, Jordan?
But they couldn't just unplug it. No.
They're like, we have to figure out a way to cut the power off. So they concoct this scheme to break into Mike's dad's hardware store because
this does seem a bit much. Yeah. When they go this far, I do remember a lot of this easily. Yeah. And this is where, they grab the dynamite. They're getting the dynamite.
And so it's sucking the power out of town. Like everything's like going dark, and then they're like, they figure out that they have to stop this device from the surge, this electric surge from going.
Which you see surging through every power line, like a beautiful optical from back then, beautifully done optical. all the
Yeah.
electricity, and it's clearly sucking the power. Just visually, you get that idea. They've got to stop this though somehow.
Yeah, they see that, and then they break into Michael's dad's hardware store to get some dynamite. Now, Jordan, I didn't realize you can just go down to the local Ace Hardware and buy some freaking dynamite. Maybe you could in the 80s.
Well, Mike's dad. Mike's dad also sells guns behind the counter there. You didn't know that though. That was out.
Yeah,
No, I just made that up. I don't
Mike's
know.
dad does a lot of things you don't know.
A lot of things Mike's dad does you don't know about. Yeah, Anthony. He keeps a CB radio behind the counter. There's like boxes with dynamite that he's got under in a basement area of that store. There's a lot of things people don't know about Mike's dad, Anthony.
He's paranoid and he's prepping, man. No,
he's waiting for World War III.
Just dynamite in a freaking box. Anyway, and so Mike's
I don't
dad.
know. That's all out of the movie. I just made all that up. I'm sorry, folks. Yeah.
No, it's funny. Yeah, and Mike's dad gets married to this floozy lady he meets, and anyway, I don't know. It's crazy. There's that little.
Oh yeah,
that goes nowhere.
I don't know why they showed all that. That was weird. And then they showed that they redecorated the place when he comes back at one point, and it looks like Valentine's Day up in there, like a store decorated with Valentine's gifts or something. Or it's just that's a bizarre subplot. What the fuck was up with that? Yeah.
And Mike's rude to his new stepmom. I kind of like those two characters, but yeah, it kind of distracts from the story.
Why is he rude to her too? I mean, I come from a divorce background. That was my old man. When he was single, sometimes he looked miserable without another companion when he was single. So if that had been me and he'd been all just like, if that was distracting him in a good way, I'd been like, oh, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Too bad a young Jordan didn't see this movie.
Yes.
Therapy
I know.
Through film.
Yes.
Anyway, so they concoct their scheme. I'm just kidding. They concoct their scheme to stop the surge before it gets to the power station. And so they are, and it's a really cool scene. I really like it. What are they doing, Jordan?
Is this where they're racing along the speed of the electricity at every power line? They're trying to get to one of the power lines to detonate it, basically, to blow it up. Yeah. And it is funny because Fisher Stevens starts talking like an old movie again. He's like, I feel like Gregory Peck in Guns of Navarone here. And that's how he sounds, just like John Lovitz, as Tommy Flanagan. Far out reference there for you kids from the 80s also.
There is, there's a lot of fun, a lot of old movie references and stuff like that. That's kind of his shtick. And this was like, what is it? Pop culture references before it was cool, kind of.
True. Before Tarantino was doing it, or the only person doing it, pop culture references before Tarantino was maybe sometimes in the 80s. And then before the 80s, though, it was like Jean-Luc Godard, basically, if you want to reach back, where they were, his main character idolized Humphrey Bogart. You'd see photos of him. That was early pop culture reverence in a movie scene in a movie that, a person does in reality, we always look, we all look up to movie stars, for image and all that.
Yeah, and Woody Allen and there's some stuff in the 70s, but I will say that's the first time anyone has ever mentioned Jean-Luc Godard and My Science Project in the same breath. That's for sure.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if that'll get me more. I don't know if they'll get us more hashtags or anything like that. Yeah. Far out reference. Sorry, you kids will probably be like, "Who the fuck is Jean-Luc Godard? What the fuck language are you speaking?" Jesus Christ.
And so they're racing the electric surge, and the surge is going about 90 miles an hour, and then he hits the nitrous in the car, and it has a blower, and they just launch, and they're going really fast, like 120 plus, and they go faster than the surge. So that's really cool.
This almost looked like it was lifted from Road Warrior, though. From that.
Oh, yeah?
Because he does the same thing in Road Warrior from a few years previously, where you see the nitrous on the car, and it's like warp speed or light speed.
That's what I was thinking. It's like whenever they hit warp speed in a movie. That's exactly
it became like warp speed from Star Trek or light speed in Star Wars. Literally, I mean, hit the nitrous. It's like on your car going, hit the overdrive, bam.
It's cool. It's a fun scene. It's probably one of the signature scenes in the movie.
It looks great though. It looks fun.
But What's not fun, Jordan, is I did the math.
Oh,
The surge is going 90 miles an hour, right?
yeah.
Do you know how fast electricity travels? Presuming it's electricity, this surge.
Faster than the speed of light, possibly.
Yeah. Electricity, power travels generally about the speed of light. You are correct. And for various reasons, between 50 and 90%, looking this up, I'm no expert.
I'm just saying, logistically speaking, I imagine electricity travels faster than you see in the movie.
50 to 90%.
It's not an optical
the speed
effect
of
in
light
reality.
through power lines. That makes it somewhere between 83,800 and 160,700 miles per second. That's around the
Oy.
Earth 3.3 to 6.7 times, Jordan. So light is fast, and half of light speed is really fast. So it's not 90 miles an hour. Point of contention, Jordan. I'm like Sherman here. I'm like the 80s nerd now.
But even this guy's a gearhead. I mean, he could make his car go that fast, couldn't he?
His car
No,
could
I'm
go
just
faster
joking.
than the speed of light. 68
I'm just
GTO
joking.
is a fast car, Jordan. So
I just wanted to sound like a character in this movie just for a second. That's all.
anyway, stupid.
Come on, Anthony. It's believable.
Suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
I refuse to suspend my disbelief for this movie, Jordan. No, it's fun. It's a great scene. Then they rig up some dynamite. Because high school kids know how to rig up dynamite. Not only do they have dynamite in that hardware store, they also have a detonator. Anyways, so they rig up dynamite.
That is, true. It's like, did they read the Anarchist Cookbook from back then ahead of time? I don't know. That was all you had back then before the internet, from what I understand. Don't tell anybody I said that out here. But wait, damn, it's on a podcast. Never mind. Anyway,
I mean,
yeah.
If I had to detonate something in high school, I wouldn't know how to do that.
No. Are you Beavis and Butthead? Or I don't know. Yeah, I mean, even Beavis doesn't know how to do that shit.
So, anyways, they rig it up. It's a silly, but it's a fun scene. And then they blow up the tower, and then that stops the surge. Whew, we did it. And then the alien engine turns off, right?
They saved the town, and the town didn't even know it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they drop Ellie off again, and then they share.
The movie's over, right? That's it.
The movie's over. No,
that's it.
The movie's still. We haven't even begun the movie yet.
So, another third act.
We're getting there though. So he drops Ellie off, and they have another moment, and then they kiss, sort of awkwardly. They kiss, and then they really kiss, which is really weird. But you know what I like about this movie is that she doesn't take her glasses off and become hot.
Yeah,
this movie accepts her for who she is. She's just this nerdy girl. You know what I mean?
And she's beautiful with her glasses.
This movie doesn't do that. It's just
every movie in the 80s does that. Go back, kids, and look at every movie from the 80s, because that's the way it was.
Here's your homework, kids. Go back and watch every movie from the 80s.
The trend carried on for a bit into the Warner Brothers DC movies. Every time there was a nerd becoming a superhero for some reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I won't go on
nerd
about
culture
that.
Became cool.
Yeah. Fucking Warner Brothers and DC. Yes. Anyway, sorry.
So anyway, Mike sneaks home, and then Richard Manser is the cop.
I thought it was Mazur. Sorry. Am I wrong?
Okay,
no. I don't mean to correct you. I'm sorry, Anthony.
It's a typo.
It's Mazur.
It's a typo in my notes, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll start over. Okay, so Mike sneaks home, and then Richard Mazur is there. And who does Richard Mazur play, Jordan?
Is he like the local town? No. Is he like the sheriff, or is he like I forgot.
He's like a sheriff or an FBI guy or something. He's some sort of cop man.
He wears
some
sunglasses.
Sort of pig, as Dennis Hopper would say. And he's trying his damnedest, New York actor, trying his damnedest to do a Western accent. I don't know if it works.
Richard Mazur. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's put this all together, and like he's a cop off a TV show. He figured out the missing dynamite. He figured out they broke into high school. They figured out Mr. Roberts is missing. And so Mike calls Ellie before they take him downtown. And then he's like, bring the engine thing to the police station, right? And so she goes, because they're getting arrested, and they bring Mike and Vince down there to arrest them, to book them.
Yeah.
And so Ellie goes and gets the engine, and then who's in the high school but Sherman the nerd guy?
Oh,
so
yeah.
he realizes what the thing is. He's like, oh, that's what they were talking about. And he plugs it in stupidly.
Yeah. Damn Sherman. This guy.
And so all the power goes out, and then everyone's freaking out at the police station. And then they just, hop in a car, and Vinny steals a police car.
That's right. Yeah. For some reason, they made that okay back then in the 80s and 90s. Like, it was easy to steal a police car. I don't know if they'd put that in a movie now in, like, kind of a...
But the keys are just... I know it's outside a police station, but the keys are just sitting in the police car? You just
That's
hop on
true.
in?
They also made it look easy to steal a police car in the 80s and early 90s, at least in movies. For some reason, that seemed to be a wild trend. Disclaimer, sorry.
Why couldn't they both just hop in Mike's car? All they're doing is going to the high school. Like,
Because it's
probably-
not as dangerous. It doesn't add to the tension, Anthony. Continue. Action.
It's
Sorry.
Vinny's character.
And scene.
It's what Vinny would do. That's Vinny's character, I guess. So it's
Yeah.
a cool thing, man. You always, you want to see kids stealing cop cars. It's the 80s,
Because
dude.
that's what Vinny, yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's what Vinny's character would do, because I guess he's supposed to be a thug stereotype or something.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
He's from Brooklyn. We do this
He's
all
from
the time
Brooklyn.
in Brooklyn.
He's from Brooklyn and he's smacking gum. Yeah, right on.
So anyway, they go back to the high school, and there's this vortex forming above the high school, and Sherman the nerd is leaving. He's like, ah.
Now,
blah,
this is
blah,
where the
blah.
movie gets really cool, though, I think, visually, and all that,
This
I'm
is
just
when the
gonna
movie
say.
takes off, and
Yeah. This is where the movie can happen, as the pitch guy says.
Exactly. So why did he plug in the why did Sherman plug in the machine in the engine?
So the movie can happen, of course, Anthony. We've got to quote the
don't
pitch guy
know.
there. I don't know, so the movie can happen,
I'm gonna need you to get off my back about that. Anyway,
Oh, we're giving props to the pitch guy. All right, we had to give plugs to the pitch guy
yeah, plugs the pitch guy.
on
Love him.
on YouTube.
So this is when it really, and I saw this movie as a kid, and I really haven't. I think I've seen it only once or twice since then.
See, that was for me too. I saw it on cable as a kid, and this is where
Yeah.
it always stuck out in my mind was when they go through this vortex part. They get back to the high school, and they're finding that this vortex has happened within the high school, right?
Yeah, and this machine is on. It's somehow. I guess they fixed the
Yeah.
power lines, Jordan. I don't know how. I guess they probably
The
mentioned
machine
it,
has absorbed its power, and now it's alive and well, and it's making them travel through all these different times, just zones. But it's weird.
Yeah.
It's interesting the way they do it in this movie. I do have to rave about this part of the movie, because it was really, you can tell this movie might have been done on a low budget, I imagine, or a medium budget at least. So they didn't have a lot, they only had so much money, I imagine. But I love the way they do it. It's unique. They're passing through time periods, but it's like they're passing through shifts of a room, just through, I don't know how to even describe it.
it's trippy, man.
Yeah.
It's like there's a time warp, and
Mhm.
it's turned the high school, and the high school's integrated probably
It's these
partially
holes
because
of
the
time
budget.
right there in front of everybody, but it's played off like they're just walking through different areas, and it's like, oh my God, they're in the future and they're in the past. They're in Vietnam in the past. Oh, they're in the Korean War in the past. Damn, they're in the future where there's lasers in this section. It's almost like a ride at that point. This is why I wish Disney would re-release this movie also, by the way.
Yeah.
Because we had to watch this movie on YouTube, folks. I'm going to say
Yeah.
it. I hope you leave this part in. And I get why Disney probably hasn't released this movie. It is probably the language needs to be edited, I imagine, because a couple of the scenes.
Or a disclaimer in the beginning. They could cut some of this dialogue or track it.
But honestly, it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't only take a few seconds of editing to make this movie proper, in my opinion, for modern audiences to watch it. But because of this sequence, I kind of wanted to see it in a better form, because we were watching this. It was clearly pulled from a widescreen VHS or a lesser generation DVD or something.
Yeah.
But luckily, it was widescreen. But
I'd like to see this movie in a much better format.
I would still like to see, absolutely, despite all we're saying, I would still like to see this movie in a proper high def, at least 1080 format,
And you'd like to see the ride at Disney World. My
Absolutely,
Science
make a
Project, the
ride out of this. Oh, hell, that's a hell of an idea, Anthony. Shit, my science project, the ride.
Shortest line ever.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
is this?
What's this based on? Absolutely, you just walk through a walk through dark ride. Oh my god, where it was like the movie.
Oh yeah, they could remake this very easily. It's a good
Yeah.
idea. It's a unique idea, like you said. It's
It
fun.
is just Fisher Stevens' character has a few improper things that he says every now and then, but you just have to you'd have to cut that pretty much, in my opinion. That would be it. You'd be fine.
Yeah.
And I'd be fine with Disney editing that for modern audiences. I would be okay with that. I don't consider it sanitizing on this area, honestly. I understand why the FAG word is very offensive to people nowadays. Some people, I understand.
Okay, so back to the high school. So they're like you said, they're walking to the high school. There's all these different time periods as they go through different down the halls. There's like they're encountering different times. It's kind of integrated into the lockers and the gym and other things.
Exactly, that's the bizarre part. It's almost like if you're walking through your apartment and this happened, and you came through your bathroom, and your bathroom was in the past somewhere in ancient China, and then you walked right out of your bathroom and suddenly you're in your hallway, and your hallway was in the dinosaur age, and then you walked into your living room, and your living room was in the future, and mutants are shooting at you in your living room, like that. I mean, folks, that's what's fascinating. Anyway,
my bedroom would be in the Depression.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. No, I don't know.
Sorry.
That's so sad, Anthony.
It's
so sad, Anthony. You're depressed. I don't say anyway. Well, okay.
Anyway, so basically, to give you a rundown, they run into a Neanderthal, and then Fisher Stevens they kill the Neanderthal, or they beat it up, Huh?
Yeah, because he's kind of just after them, trying to kill them because he don't know what they are. Yeah. But they go through a part at one point. They walk through the dinosaur era.
Well, hold on before we get. to
are
that,
we there? Oh, okay. I had to rave about that.
1 second, give me 1 second. Yeah. And he's just like Fisher Stevens is like Barney Rubble just tried to flame me out. He keeps saying "flame me out" for killing people, which is really that movie with the car. They tried to flame that dude out. Weird, but anyway, 80s slang.
That sounds like a Logan's Run term, honestly.
And then they encounter a gladiator, and then Mike kills the fucking gladiator, man. He's a high school kid.
That's the trip, too. They see literally Roman gladiators in one section of the high school gym. Shit, it's like,
And then I guess it's Vietnam or whatever. They get some machine guns. I guess this is like a high school fantasy, and they kill a bunch of Viet Cong and save an American pilot. Like, they're killing people. They're shooting people. They're walking around with machine guns.
That was kind of weird. Maybe they'd have to edit that part out if they were going to.
That's what I'm saying. That's probably
why they were going to put it on Disney Plus. Because this movie is actually, folks, it's Touchstone. I'm sorry. It's owned by Disney. I'm sorry. I'm going to.
Yeah, if you want to see high school kids killing people, this is totally 80s. This is 80s as hell, man.
They're not singing. They're killing people in this one.
Yeah.
And they're not singing and killing people. They're just killing people. No.
And then they meet these post-apocalyptic mutants from the future who have laser guns.
I love that part.
And then they shoot them.
It's like the Star Wars element of the Terminator element, a year after Terminator. I don't know, but yeah. They kill them. They shoot the mutants, without even asking questions. But the mutants are shooting at them because they don't know what they are, so yeah.
Yeah. And then they meet Slater from Land of Doom, and he's like, Michael, you're living in the past, and you're a loser. On top of a ride.
Yeah, I would love that if they didn't. After the mutants. I am Slater. I'm here to rule. You're all my slaves now.
And so then they shoot Slater. And then this would make a really good video game on top of a ride. I think this would be a really cool idea for a video game.
Clearly, Disney, with its Touchstone arm, was missing the boat on this back in the day.
Yeah, they weren't even thinking about it. Well, what were video games in the 80s? A video game version of this in the 80s? Like, can you imagine the LJN version of this game? Like,
oh my God, that would have been... Game? If they had come up with something like that, or if Sega came up with the My Science Project game, can you imagine that?
It would have been really cheesy.
Or even the Nintendo version? I mean,
You encounter the Viet Cong. Shoot them. There's just bats and things and zombies that weren't even in the movie.
Later on, if they just push that movie to be more successful, maybe. I don't know. Although I think it did do okay at the box office anyway.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Oh, you might have done more research. Okay.
I did
Yes.
some research.
Was that the Viet Cong or was that the Korean War, by the way?
I don't know. I couldn't tell, man.
Yeah, yeah, but it was kind of sad that they were just shooting at him. Yeah.
Anyway, so then, Jordan, they go to the gym, and what do they encounter?
The dinosaur, and they're in the dinosaur age, the prehistoric age. Am I right?
Yeah, they meet a
Is
giant
that what I remember
puppet dinosaur.
Which I think is brilliant. I think it looks great before CG. Honestly, this effect is amazing. I think it was honestly done the same way the Rancor monster in Jedi was done, where it was a puppet where they shot at really high speed. Not to get technical here, like a nerd, not to get technical, but yeah,
it's a good effect.
It's a beautiful dinosaur in this movie for its time period. I mean, you have this movie. You consider you have this movie and Baby Secret of the Lost Legend the same year. It's weird that they had.
Oh,
that's
wow.
another thing in 1985 that's interesting that they had in movies was two different.
Another Disney movie.
Yeah. They had a Disney movie with one dinosaur, and then a Disney movie with another dinosaur cameo. This movie, but yeah.
It's really good effect. I remember as a kid, it scared me because it was like it looked real,
Yeah.
Now it looks. You can tell it's sort of it's a puppet. It's an animatronic with something. For a movie of this budget, you can tell it's kind of a cheap movie. It's really good.
Oh, I agree.
And I think Jordan, I think I heard the MGM lion. I could be wrong. This isn't an MGM movie, but or maybe it was just a lion roar. I don't know if it was a callback, but it sounds like.
For the dinosaur sound effect.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. Disney movie, probably not. But.
Oh, wait. You're talking about the MGM lion roar as the dinosaur sound effect in this movie, and then yet it's in a Disney movie. That's interesting. They might have snuck that in. It could have
just been a lion roar.
What if they snuck that in? Ooh.
Could be. But fun fact, Jordan, I'm bringing the fun facts this episode. Raphael Sbarge, however you say his name, was also in another movie with a dinosaur. A Roger Corman directed film or produced film. Carnosaur. Which had another puppet dinosaur in. Yeah. Fun fact, that's not really fun for anybody but me.
That's another example of him being in a more leading role where he wasn't playing the nerd. This is one of the only times I think this guy ever played a nerd in a movie. Yeah, was this one movie. After that, he was playing like kind of the romantic lead a little bit. They were trying to wasn't he in Argo later on?
He's been in a lot, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are going to have an entire episode just devoted to the work of Raphael Sbarge. So stay tuned for that.
Anyway.
So I stupidly forgot to mention the whole reason they're going to the high school. Yeah, it's just turn the device off. But the nerd Sherman left Ellie there. She was knocked unconscious and like her body is just there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
And so they're going to go save her. And then they encounter the mutants again, I think. And then they find the device, and it's like doing devicey stuff. It's swirling stuff all around, and
it's out of control. Stuff. It's on its own.
And so Mike sees Ellie laying there, and he very gallantly runs through the mist, through all the danger of the device, and picks her up in his arms, and then carries her to safety. And Ellie's okay, everybody. She's okay.
Thank God.
Jordan, your high school crush is all right. She survived.
Thank God. I was about to cry. Sorry. Ellie, no.
She's all right, everybody. And so Mike goes to unplug the device, and he stops it. He turns it off, and there's a big drain effect in the sky, Jordan. Did you see that big?
Yeah, it was very like reminiscent of Raiders, almost like, wasn't it? Raiders of the Lost Ark, or
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a bit Ten Commandments all over again, of course, but it was very reminiscent of Raiders.
It's cool though. It's
it
cool
looked
because
cool.
I mean, Yeah, a big.
This movie has a lot of. I think I should have looked it up ahead of time again, but I think this movie had a lot of major effects guys behind it that were all, you know. But yeah, it is a great looking effect.
It's a good effect. There's for a movie of this budget, it's good effects, and the drain
And I'm
effect
so glad he
works.
unplugged the whole thing.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, why didn't they just hit a breaker? This whole movie could have been, I mean, couldn't have been stopped. Like, you know how I always say, like, this movie wouldn't have happened if just go hit a breaker, man, or unplug
Yeah.
the thing. Jeez, you know,
It would have been
we
over
gotta
by
blow
then.
up
Yeah.
towers and stuff. Just hit a breaker.
Like, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about the insurance costs here as an adult.
Oh God, the school is trashed. Everything doesn't go back to normal. Like I think the whole school is absolutely destroyed, which is
yeah. They got to rebuild that school. I hope they have good local government coverage on that.
cool. Yeah. And so, but Mike gets sucked into the machine, man.
Oh, that's right. That was bizarre. That was kind of bizarre.
But then he comes back again like a minute later. So
It was weird. It had like a moment like in Nightmare on Elm Street 2 where you thought the kid was Freddy and then the skin was off and it wasn't Freddy, it was the kid underneath, you know, kind of thing where it was almost like that kind of ending. And it's funny because that's a movie that came out also in 1985 is Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, you know, because they did rush it out after the sequel.
It's sort of a cheap emotional trick. I don't know. It's weird. I wish they'd done more with that. But anyway.
You mean like, yeah, where you're just like, oh I'm so glad you're, oh, you came back and you're still the same person you came back after you disappeared and you're still the same person. Nothing's happened to you at all. You're not any different.
Yeah. He's just come back and it doesn't explain where he's been or anything. And I wish Ellie could have done something to bring him back or
they
something.
never ask these questions in those movies when these people come back from these circumstances. Oh, like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
You know, you zapped and came back. Your body had to reform or, you know, I mean, at least in the Marvel movies, after they blipped, as they called it, everybody vanished after Thanos.
Yeah.
They showed them in Endgame, you know, like at an AA type meeting. I thought that was reality. Honestly, that's reality bringing into it. Honestly, that's great. That makes sense. But they don't explain that in these older movies like this, where it's like, oh, everything's okay. They came back. Okay. Everything's okay.
Yeah, and they don't really do much with that. It just kind of happens. So it's kind of...
You have the nice music to cue it up and tie it up.
Yeah, good music there. But it's that whole thing happens for no reason. It's kind of wasted. I don't get why that was even there. But anyway, so they go outside and the police are there and the fire department are there. And I love it. I love it. So Dennis Hopper is gone and they're like, oh no. And then he just like shows up again. I guess to show that, I guess they bring Mike back to show that Dennis Hopper, Mr. Roberts is coming back. So
that it's okay that exactly. That there's a way for that guy to come back too, I guess. But yeah. But Dennis Hopper shows up looking like Easy Rider all over again in his fringe jacket and same looking fringe jacket. He looks just like, you know, he did an Easy Rider.
Billy from Easy Rider. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you expect Captain America to come right in behind him, honestly, and Jack Nicholson, you know. And funny enough, he doesn't, I mean, he looks enough, he was young enough back then to still look like that, to where he just, you know, but that was funny about it. But it was a nice callback, you know.
Oh man,
he's like,
and
hey man, I've been everywhere, man.
he's chewing up the scenery and it's awesome. He's like, I went on a tour of the '60s, man.
Yeah.
You get an A on your science project, man.
Yeah.
And thank God, because that's what's important here, that they get an A on their science project.
Yeah.
You know,
you got an A as they're taking him away after that.
The cops are taking him away for no reason.
Why are they taking him away after he's come back? Like, what did he do? Jeez.
He was missing.
Why is he being hauled off? Just because he was missing? Oh, I mean,
is he getting blamed for this? And he's calling all the cops pigs, man. He's
yeah.
Like, the future's a groove, man. It's a funky belly high or something like that. Hide the device, man. We're not ready for it. You know, it's so.
I love all that though. Yeah, that was great. I mean, this movie does have everything. I mean, hell, when you boil it all down, it's got lasers, dinosaurs, cars. I mean, a marketing guy's dream. I mean, mutants from the future, you know, Dennis Hopper in a fringe jacket from the 60s. I mean, what the fuck else do you want?
I don't know.
I mean, in a movie, that's everything I want in a movie. Generally, most of the time,
Yeah,
and time travel.
And time travel. It's got it all. And so they take the device back, and then the car breaks down again. And then so they walk into town. But this time, Mike has learned and grown throughout our screenplay.
That's
and
right.
Now he's like,
he's changed.
And Ellie's like, well, aren't you embarrassed about walking into town? He's like, it's just a car, right? So everyone learned a lesson. And they're together now.
It's not about material things like a car anymore. Mike learned a lesson today, kids. and what can we all learn from Mike and Ellie in this story, kids? We learned that we can all have a better day if we're not all attached to cars and material things.
Ask the nerd girl out.
Ask the nerd girl out. She's hot underneath.
And so,
once you get her out of those glasses, kid, look at what's underneath.
It's what's inside that matters, not what's outside. So yes, you got the warm fuzzies, but what does happen is the car sort of sparks, Jordan, like the license plate and bumper of the car sparks. So did Mike really keep the device? Or was that just a nod and a wink? Or were they planning a sequel? What do you think that was?
I would have loved a sequel to this movie. Why not? I mean, fuck it. Why not? Honestly, I mean, they set it up this way. I kind of even thought when I saw it on cable that you'd think it would have a sequel at some point. And we were getting into the late 80s in this point in the movie era, and it was getting into the sequel era again with things once again. It's not like sequels never went anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Back to the Future had a sequel. Why wouldn't My Science Project have a sequel if it was financially successful? Which you said you did homework there. Was it financially successful?
Well, before we get to that, the sequel I think would have been called My College Term Paper. But
I'm going to go steal some files from Watergate.
Was it successful, Jordan? Well, I was trying to find some numbers on this. I can find how much, different sources about how much it made, but the budget, I found an article with the director. Apparently, he said it cost between 12 and 14 million. I don't know if that includes marketing or what.
Okay, that's about the same that a movie like RoboCop later cost in that same time period, about a couple of years later. That was about a medium budget back then, as they'd say.
It's an
but still
effects
low
heavy
budget.
movie.
Not enough, but just enough.
I bet Dennis Hopper was a big chunk of that. No, I don't know. I wonder how much Dennis Hopper got paid for this movie.
But he might have done it cheaper, considering where he was coming from at that point in his career.
Yeah. This was before,
he
like
might
you
have
said, Blue
cost more
Velvet.
later on, honestly.
Yeah. He wasn't doing much in the 80s. And so, or he was doing a lot, but he wasn't a big ticket, a big actor in the 80s. So it made domestic U.S. and Canada $4.1 million.
Wait, how much again?
It cost 12 to 14. It made 4.1 in domestic box office. They only ran it for a few weeks in 1,000 theaters. I guess Disney didn't. They didn't really push it.
They didn't have faith in this one, and I know they released it right after Back to the Future, and I guess they didn't think it helped any.
Yeah,
it seemed like they were capitalizing on Back to the Future being an instant success at that point, because Back to the Future took off right after it was released, pretty much, as far as box office went. I mean, it took off quick. The word of mouth went so quick for back then.
In comparison, Jordan, I don't know what Back to the Future made a lot of money, but Weird Science, which came out a couple weeks before, or a week before, on a budget of $7.5 million, cost less, made $38 million.
Oh,
right.
And that's Universal Yeah, that was Universal Studios on
Real
that one.
Genius, same thing. Cost $8 million and made 13. So that's not a huge success, but it made money.
But still, made its money back and a little bit then some. Exactly.
Yeah,
which is what
a third of its budget, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the money went, dude.
But what about internationally? I mean, did it do better overseas? I imagine it probably
was just a failure. That's why it's not.
I wonder if it did better on cable, at least. I mean, did it make it? I guess it didn't.
It ran on cable a lot, but I mean, if those numbers are to be believed, then regardless, it wasn't a success. And I think it was probably because of the burnout. Think about an audience there. You've seen Back to the Future. You've seen Weird Science. You maybe saw Real Genius.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was just science movie burnout.
That makes sense. Yeah. She blinded me with science. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Audiences were blinded by science. They didn't want any more. That's my theory, because it's not a bad movie, but it feels derivative of other movies, although it isn't.
It's a fascinating original movie, though. Really, yeah. When you look at it, and you kind of wonder why it didn't have a sequel. It looked like it should have had a sequel back then. Honestly,
Yeah, and it feels grittier than those other movies.
it does. But why wouldn't it have continued? I mean, yeah, the portal was still there. The portal could show back up. No, that it's so unpredictable. Obviously, this alien object that created these time portals. So it obviously it could have, and the alien object could have shown back up in a sequel, and bam, even considering a movie that came out a year later called Critters even had a sequel within
Yeah.
the same decade.
Yeah.
2 years later. So yeah, it is kind of weird.
Here's the sequel. Dennis Hopper comes back. He's like, "Hey, Michael and Ellie, I've got to tell you something about your future, man."
What is it? Yeah.
It's
What
your
is
kids.
it?
They become dicks or whatever.
Your kids are going to become assholes, man.
Mr. Roberts gets the device again. Total sequel. Totally, man. It could happen.
And he comes back from the future, and he's way more paranoid than Doc Brown. He's like way out of his. He's frightened. Like he's coming down from a bad trip.
Or they have to stop him from taking over time or something. Maybe he's the bad guy. I don't know.
Yeah. He's like, I've just seen the future, man. You're going to become assholes, man. You're going to try to run for president. And it's not going to work out. And people are going to hate you, man. You want to become like this, man?
You're going to open up a mechanic shop, man. And it's going to go out of business, man.
You think it's going to become a franchise like Meineke or something, but no, man. Going to become more like Bubba's down the street, where he just shuts down and it becomes something else. They bulldoze it, or I don't know. It becomes a donut shop.
Ellie, you get knocked up, man.
Yeah, Ellie,
you got to drop out of college.
Arlen ends up messing around on you, man.
Anyway, the lame sequel. Yeah,
you leave him for another guy, and then you cheat on him again, and then you have a baby with him, and then you cheat on him again.
And you have a baby with Fisher Stevens, man. You cheat on him. Your future's fucked, man. Anyway,
we keep saying Fisher Stevens and not his character. I'm
whatever.
sorry, Fisher Stevens. You're a great actor. We love you. We really do. We love you.
And what I don't really love is the Oingo Boingo ripoff original theme song for this movie. It sounds like, Thomas Dolby's Blinded by Science, or it sounds like Weird Science.
At the end,
but
yeah.
Yeah, it's like My Science Project, do, or whatever. It's just really, it's not catchy. It did not top the Billboard
And then
charts.
the credits are like a TV sitcom from that time period, where they show freeze frames of the things that happened throughout the show, like as if you didn't see it, but the first time already, Is it? Oh, like remember these moments? Were they cute? Yeah, I'll just show you the freeze frame from it. Yeah.
Where did the money go to Jonathan Butel or whatever his name is? Butel? Did he run to Vegas with half the budget? I mean, it doesn't look like a big budget movie, or not a big budget.
12
movie,
million, mind you. Now, I think that's close to the same price RoboCop cost, but RoboCop used its money wisely.
Yeah, but Weird Science and Real Genius were made for about $8 million, though, so much less than that, and bigger successes.
Yeah,
in a
good
way.
point. Unless if it was those effects, there was optical effects, and back then those were expensive. A laser shot. Every time a laser shot out of a cannon, or anytime electricity shot out of a cannon back then, it could cost you around $2,000, honestly.
Yeah.
From an effects house back then, because they were painting on the film. They were doing it like animation painting. It was old school. There was no computers back then.
So criticisms
they were painting
here
on film.
It's criticisms. It's a fun movie. It kind of needed a little script work, I think. We spend a little too much time setting up the high school drama. And we could have had more time in the high school with the time warp stuff.
True.
The stakes weren't high enough in a weird way. I don't know. It seems like a small small thing.
Yeah, I agree on that actually.
Fisher Stevens, again, I mean, maybe you liked him. I thought he was annoying but funny. I'm coining a term for Fisher Stevens here in this movie, "fanoying."
Annoying. Wow.
Like he's
Wow.
got some jokes, and then sometimes you're just like, "Shut up, Fisher Stevens." But
I used to find him interesting as an actor. Honestly, he was,
he's a good actor.
I wanted to see him in more interesting things. Honestly, where he played a different role, even. But I don't know. Some things. But yeah,
he's a good character actor. Nothing against him. He's
you
good
don't
in
see
that
him in a
role.
lot of things everywhere nowadays. So you know.
Yeah. Well, he's in that big HBO show, Succession. He plays a lawyer, I think.
I've never seen it. I'm sorry.
Well,
but no, we may not be seeing it now because of Warner Brothers. No, I'm sorry, Warner Brothers Discovery. Anyway, but yeah, Succession with Fisher Stevens. No, I didn't realize he was in that show, but I do remember him
he's
being
got a bit
also in
part.
that
He
movie.
does, he does a lot of
Hackers
TV stuff.
where he was on skateboard
Yeah.
all the time.
He was in, he was on a skateboard all the time.
Looked like he had to ride a lot in that movie, but yeah.
Yeah. And again, we're going to have a whole episode devoted to the fabulous career of Fisher Stevens.
We're going to have to find him and locate him and interview him. Yeah, exactly.
We'll interview him, and we will not talk about the Short Circuit movies. But anyway.
No, absolutely. We'll talk about Succession and My Science Project, but we won't talk about the words he uses in My Science Project. But
Jordan, off topic, did you learn any lessons from this movie?
I learned that it's not a good idea to probably get in your car and try to chase after electricity if it's like flowing down the circuits. You know, I mean, yeah. I've seen power lines like that nearby where I live.
Yeah.
If that was happening, I don't know. I don't know if I could beat the electricity in my Murano. I just let people know what I drive now. But yeah. I don't think I could beat it. And I don't think it's a good idea I think it's a better idea to like wait until you detonate something with dynamite and then go to your dad's hardware store and look for dynamite that your dad might have been saving that dynamite for another occasion, damn it. Might have been saving it for 4th of July to give you fireworks, and you had to use it on that power line.
Saving it for your new stepmother's wedding.
And for your new mother's wedding, because she wanted fireworks, damn it.
Yeah, I just learned that, once again, something I already knew is that dynamite solves everything. And kids, break into your local hardware store, and there's dynamite in there and detonators. Right. And
to quote Will Smith in Independence Day, "Did not promise you fireworks."
And so I also learned that if you cast Dennis Hopper as himself, you get a good performance.
Yeah, he's great in this movie. I mean, it's funny. A year later, he made this movie called Hoosiers, from what I understand. And, he got nominated for an Oscar. And, he really deserved an Oscar for this movie, I think, honestly.
Yeah.
Compared to Hoosiers.
He was great.
Hoosiers, he just had to play an alcoholic father in some movie about guys that in basketball in the 50s and Gene Hackman. And I don't know how that movie somehow made it to the Oscars. It's 1987, 86. I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, My Science Project, give him an Oscar for that. Exactly, lame. Fuck that.
Best supporting actor goes to Dennis Hopper in My Science Project. Yeah, well, you would need an alien time and space warp device to make that happen.
I've seen the clip that they showed from the Oscars in 1986, and they showed the clip from Dennis Hopper and Hoosiers where he's just going, "It's okay, son. I love you. You know what? Kick those boys' butts." I mean, what does that not sound like? I mean, that sounds like a weaker line compared to My Science Project, what he did in My Science. I mean, it literally could have been now nominated for Best Oscar, Dennis Hopper in My Science Project.
It's like, the future is a groove, man. It's a funky belly high.
Oh, the future is a groove, man. It's a belly ride, man. Oh my God, man. And the nominees for Best Supporting Actor is, envelope please, Dennis Hopper, My Science Project.
In an alternate 1985.
I know there's an alternate 1985 where that happened. I'm sure of it. I believe it. The weed helps me believe it.
He is one of the best things in this movie, and it's worth it. It's worth seeing just to see his performance. And
Yeah, he really
it's a
does.
lot
He
of
really
fun.
helps elevate the movie. Honestly, no, all kidding aside, he really helped elevate the movie. The actors are great in this movie. Almost all the actors are great in this movie.
All the
Honestly,
actors are great. It's just lacking something. I don't know what that is. It's lacking a little umph.
yeah, maybe it's something in the script.
It feels like a smaller movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
maybe
Something's wrong.
yeah.
It's not bad. It's just not great, and it's definitely overshadowed by better movies from the same year.
I'm gonna say it. I hate to chicken out here. What if Spielberg himself had produced this movie? I mean,
Oh God.
he would have added stuff that would have been interesting. He would have added interesting ideas. Like he probably would have injected that stuff that we're feeling like is missing.
Yeah, bigger stakes, more emotion.
He would have been like, well, what's the reason? Why are they doing this? Or why are they? He
Yeah.
probably would have asked those questions because that is the genius of Spielberg. I'm sorry. And
Yeah, if he would have produced the script, it would have had a lot more heart. He would have
yeah,
he taken the same pieces and just moved them around a little bit, nip and tuck, a little more emotion here, a little
Yeah.
bigger stakes, made Ellie a bigger character maybe, and a little more. With that being said, what kind of rating do you give this movie, man?
God, how do I rate this as far as a unique rating? It's not a bad movie. God, it's not a perfect movie, but there's things I love about this movie, despite its some little parts of its being a bit dated. Yes, little parts though only. I will give it that. Considering compared to other movies we watched from the past, I would give it 7 out of 10 sticks of dynamite.
Okay.
I don't know how to. I'm trying to think of devices from this movie.
You got an alien time warp machine.
Okay. Let me change it.
You got mutants.
How would I
you
rate
got-
this? Okay. I give this 3.5 out of 4 alien time devices that warp time travel, that make time travel possible. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? How's
Yeah.
that as a rating?
Yeah, and it's like a flux capacitor.
It literally is like a little, like an alien flux
Alien
capacitor.
flux capacitor. Yeah. I give it about the same as your original because you're messing with you're making me do math here, but I give it about 7 out of 10. I think that's really fair.
Yeah,
For people who like
there's
80s,
some brilliant things in this movie. The dinosaurs.
it's a missed
brilliant.
opportunity,
Yeah.
but not by much. It's fun. It's innocent fun.
I love
and-
the unique way they travel through time. There's still never been anything like that to my memory, really close to it. I might be wrong in some areas. There might be some close examples, but that their way of doing that vortex of time travel, where everything is just out in the open like that, in different rooms, in different hallways, kind of thing.
in high school. Yeah.
In a high school, yeah. I mean, I've never seen anything like that still.
Yeah, I give it 7 out of 10. Grenades to a giant puppet dinosaur and body counts. Where I will say this has one of the highest body counts of any 80s teen comedy.
That's true. I never.
People
thought
get
about
killed
that.
all over the place.
Dark
It's
aspect
kinda
once again of
crazy.
this movie.
But I like that. It's sort of a I don't know. I think people should check it out. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, so that's my science project. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad, Jordan. I was worried that you would hate this movie, like Anthony. God damn it, making me watch this piece of crap. But I'm glad you seem to enjoy it.
That's the funny thing, and I hope, and this is the part I hope you leave in about me talking about how we had to watch this movie. Because message to Disney, I'm just saying, Disney Plus, please, can we have my science project, Disney, please, pretty please, with sugar on top and a cherry, I'm just saying.
Release my science project.
Edit
Disney.
out what you want that's not proper for nowadays. I'm fine with that, but if you edit that out, there's still a really interesting movie left there, I think, from the 80s,
They cut out all of Fisher Stevens' parts, like all of it. It's just
because Anthony and I had to watch this on YouTube. We had to pull up an old
not a
360 version of this on YouTube by somebody. But I don't want to mention.
Not a
them.
plug. Not a plug.
Yeah, I don't want to plug them because I want to keep it up there.
Disney the movie's out there, Jordan, and now they're going to take it down. YouTube's going to take it down. Thanks, Jordan.
I hope they get a hint, damn it. But anyway, just saying, Disney.
Yeah. Disney, why are you messing with other movies when you could be releasing My Science Project?
They did cover the nudity in Splash and put it up on Disney Plus, and hey, that's fine. If Splash is a great movie, and if that was the only problem when they want to put it out, hey, fine, but My Science Project,
yeah,
cut out some of the Fisher Stevens dialogue. Fine, you're okay,
Okay, Jordan. Well, it's been great talking to you about movies, specifically this 80s quasi teen masterpiece. And
Absolutely, and thank you for making me watch this movie for this podcast, because I found it interesting to go back and look at that movie again, actually.
Yeah.
And the dinosaur effect in the movie alone was worth it. It was like, that was really just pulling the strings of my heart right there, honestly.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I forgot how good the dinosaur was.
I felt like a kid again. The biggest effect is Dennis Hopper in this movie. The special
and then
effect is
by
Dennis
that
Hopper.
point in the movie, they had machine guns they were shooting at the dinosaur, so it looked like a Godzilla movie when the dinosaur picked up Fisher Stevens' character and he was shooting at it. It was hilarious,
A fun movie with some
This
interesting
is a fun
ideas.
movie, folks. You'll just have to check it out on YouTube, unfortunately, because Disney doesn't have it up yet. I'm sorry. That's where we had to watch it. But it's got everything. It's got lasers, dinosaurs, mutants from the future, crazy Dennis Hopper. I mean, and a dinosaur. I mean, what else do you want in a movie? Anyway.
And Jordan's high school crush nerd girl.
Danielle Von Zernick's character. Oh, my God. I'm just in love with her character. My God.
She is to die for.
She's sorry, I don't mean to be all crushy, but yeah, I have a crush on her character.
Radical to the max.
She just makes me I mean, if only her character could have been when I was in high school. That would have been my high school fantasy. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Jordan. Well, that's all I have to say about My Science Project. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into this movie, this somewhat obscure movie. And next time, Jordan, we're going to talk about some other movie.
Man.
Probably without futuristic mutants. And probably, I can't promise this, Jordan, but probably not an alien engine that warps space and time.
Oh, damn.
May be hard to avoid that.
Oh well. Well,
anyway, thanks.
I want more of this. Yes, I want more of this.
Yeah. So, everyone, if you like this episode, feel free to like it and listen to the rest of our episodes, please. We really appreciate everyone who does listen, especially our new listeners.
We love you. Thank you.
And Jordan, this has been.
I'm gonna say it like Dennis Hopper, man. The robots took my podcast, man.
And now a word from our sponsor. Hi, I'm Robert Roberts, Esquire. Now I'm gonna lay something heavy on you, man, but hear me out. I was blasted through a time-space warp by this alien engine, man. And I saw infinity. Ha ha ha! All points in time and space, you dig? And I saw the future. And I can tell you about your future. Call me, 1-900-999-9999. What do you want to know about, man? Your love life, lotto numbers, how you're going to die? Whatever, man, I'll tell you. I'll tell you how the world ends. Just call me, 1-900-999-9999. Don't trust some phony psychic, man. Only such rare individuals as myself can tell you your future. Call me, $2.99 for the first minute, $1 for each additional, man. That's all it is. And if you're under 18, the pigs want you to ask your parents, man. Not my rules. Call me, 1-900-999-9999. You can't go to space with, fractions, man. Yes, you can. I've done it. Or if you just want to talk about the 60s, man, I've been there. Woodstock, anti-war rallies, free love. Call me or visit my website at robertsknowsthefuture.com. What am I talking about, man? You're in 1985. You don't know what that is. So you gotta call me. The future is a groove, man. I made sure of that. It's a funky belly high. Call me. All trailers, clips, music, or any other copyrighted material are used sparingly, edited from their original forms, and used for the purposes of criticism, discussion, commentary, and education about these fine films.